Producers, listen up. Do you want to know the most important trick that you can start doing today to get cleaner mixdowns right from the beginning of your workflow? The technique we'll be talking about today is called mid-side separation, and here's why it's important, how it works, and how you can start using it today. So to understand mids and sides, we're going to have to start talking about how digital audio functions from the ground up. So there are only really two channels that you mix with when you're making digital music, your left and your right, hence two speakers, two headphones, etc. However, we can derive a mids and a sides channel from what is shared between these two channels and what is not. Here's a bit more of an explanation. So basically what Google's saying here is the mid signal is essentially a mono sum of the left and right channels, meaning that anything that's playing in the left and the right at the same time will be in the mid channel, and anything that is playing in the left but not the right, or vice versa, will be put in your side channel. So why is this important? Well, I've got two main reasons. The first reason is that most pairs of headphones and earphones and even Bluetooth speakers nowadays use mids and sides. They have stereo audio. However, most sound systems in lots of clubs and festivals only play things in mono to avoid phasing issues. Therefore, you want to be able to check that your tune can stand up through headphones and through a club system. There's nothing worse than getting to a rig, playing your favourite track, and a couple of the best elements don't come through properly. So how can we avoid this, and how can we actually look at the mids separately to the sides? Well, my best way of doing it is in all my projects, I go onto the main, it used to be called master in Ableton, and I open up two utilities. What I then do is I then get this first one and I press the mono button at the bottom. I get the second one, I right click on the width knob and turn it to be mid-side knob instead. Then I turn it all the way up until it says 100S, and that means that we're only hearing the sides. Now, if I play anything with both of these enabled, I won't be able to hear anything. Silence. However, if I turn one of them on or off, I can hear only the mids or only the sides, or obviously the whole picture at once. So my favourite way of doing this is using this tiny little key bind button in Ableton. I press that and then I can bind a key on my physical computer keyboard to any button within the DAW. So I'm going to use W and E to turn on and off these effects. So I can press them and you can see they're turning on and off. So this is the tune that I've been working on recently. It's called Don't Be Shy. It's fully finished, it's fully mixed, and if we use these, we can actually get a better impression of what's happening in the mids and what's happening in the sides. So here's the whole track. So basically, when I play the track with this utility enabled, it's going to tell me what it sounds like through a sound system, and if I play it without this enabled, it's going to tell me what it sounds like through headphones and earphones. The second thing it's super useful for is if you install both of these on a fresh project and then turn this one on until you think it's relatively finished, you're only going to be working with one dimension of audio. You're essentially going to be creating a really good foundation in 2D, and then working on the 3D bits separately afterwards, and it makes everything less confusing, and it makes it much easier to make sure that your mix stands up in every system that you play it on. So, you finish your mix of your track in mono and it sounds fantastic. So, how do you get to edit the sides? Well, there's a few good ways of doing this, and I'm going to show you my favourite two of them. The first way is called mid-side EQ. Now, if you look at this Ableton stock EQ8, if I move any of these, it's going to be affecting what's in both the left and the right channel, essentially the entire track. But if I select this stereo mode here and go down to mid-sides, then I've got this wonderful button which lets me switch between them. So this blue curve here is going to be editing what's happening in the mids, and this is going to be editing what's happening only in the sides. And if you were to edit that and solo these on the master, you can hear exactly what they're doing. However, my favourite way of listening to the mids and the sides on specific elements in a track is by copying both of these utility tools onto the said channel. Make sure they're both turned on, and then you get an audio effect rack, open it up, and in this drop audio effect here, you drag them both, and you're going to end up with two parallel channels. I'm going to rename them mid and sides, and what this means is that you can solo them both and see what's happening on both your mids and sides. However, the most useful thing about this is you're not only constrained to an EQ, you can put any audio effect you see here or here on either just your mids or just your sides, or if you put it after, it will apply itself to your whole track. That means that if there's certain elements that you really like in the mids but you think they need editing on the sides, then you can do that really quickly and really easily, and same for vice versa. So what my workflow looks like in terms of stereo treatment is I'll start a track with just the mids turned on the master using my W key. Then once my mix is done and it sounds good in mono, that means I've got the foundation of the tune set up. I'll disable this plugin so I can hear both the mids and the sides. I'll hear every single problem happening at the sides all at once because I'm so used to hearing how good it sounds in mono, and I'll go through with every element, put one of these on and start to edit things down. Get them shaped, make sure that everything sits right, and make sure that it sounds good through every sound system that you play it through. So there you go, there is my first educational video. I really hope it helped. This technique has helped me make my tracks sound so much cleaner and spend so much less time worrying about what might or might not be in the mix that I want. It's honestly a game changer. So if you want more educational content, make sure you follow the page. And if you feel like your mixing and mastering skills maybe aren't quite up to scratch where you'd like them to be, drop me a message, because I actually offer both mixing and mastering services for a fee. So drop me a message and we'll see what we can get sorted out, and we'll get your music sounding fantastic. Peace, everyone.